This episode is brought to you by Mortgage Workflow Partners and the Mastering Encompass series, both for users as well as administrators. You can find out all the information about it over at masterengencompass.com. Also, if you'd like to check out what we're doing on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to the channel using the @MasteringEncompass handle. And make sure you stay up to date on all the information, not just with podcasts, but also video content that we bring to you as often as possible. Now let's get on to the episode. Hey gang, welcome. It's literally the last Tuesday of the month. My name's Larry Bailey, and this is Mastering Encompass, our weekly get-togethers, our weekly community meetings. And this might be a very light crowd because everybody else is actually out doing other things besides worrying about Encompass. So Kevin and Terry, welcome. I hope you guys are going to have a phenomenal new year. Thank you very much for coming today. The meeting itself, again, usually I've got a bigger crowd. Usually we've got a lot of Q&A going on. I did want to spend this time we didn't really promote it, so people probably said, hey, he's probably not doing anything. So you guys showed up, which is really cool. So first things, as always, Kevin and Terry, for you, if you have any questions, anything you want to go over, you've got me to yourself for now. I did want to share a couple of things for everybody else who's watching replay, things that are coming up here in 2025. We're going to keep on adding folks that are coming in. So we've got Brooke. Hey, Brooke, welcome. It's a late today, right? So everybody probably thought this wasn't happening because we didn't really promote it. And I wasn't sure if anybody would show up, but in any event, thanks very much for coming. Brooke, as I said to Kevin and Terry, if you have any questions, if you want to go over anything, ask me anything, go for it. So what are we doing in 2025 with Mastering Encompass? First thing I'm doing is we are launching out a brand new community website. So Mastering Encompass has been really a focus of mine for the last 12 plus months. And mortgage community has been, it's been good. It's a decent platform, but I really want to start focusing in heavily on workshops and actually driving out information, as well as having everybody at Mortgage Workflow Partners become a moderator. So where they're able to easily add content and important things that they solved for during the week, things like that, basically bringing extra value to you as a community member. It also allows for greater ways for you to collaborate, and it's a cleaner UI. There's a lot of positives for, I think, what everybody's looking for to really be a good resource to get to. So one of the things that we're doing in 2025 that's different from what I did in 2024 and prior are going to be these workshops. And so, again, this will be kind of reiterated throughout when we get back after the new year, and then in the following week. But we're going to be doing these workshops every 2 weeks. So every Tuesday is great, but for some folks, it's a lot. And so we're going to be doing these every other Tuesday, meaning that it's going to be on the first Tuesday and the third Tuesday, kind of a thing during the month. And the workshops are going to be, as you see here on screen. I wanted to do the first 10, and they are going to be focused in on how to do things. So one of the pieces that I'm focusing in heavily on with our client projects and with our admin training is actually getting stuff done. It's part of what makes, I think, Workflow Partners unique. It's certainly what separated me out from the rest of the folks over the last 30 years in mortgage banking and the last, whatever it's been, 12 years, 13 years almost, in administering Encompass. You got to get stuff done. Part of that challenge, of course, is you, right? Is how much your resources are available, how much in skill sets you have, how much your business lets you do things. So what I want to do in 2025 is really bring these conversations to the forefront and structure these biweekly or semi-monthly, however you want to look at it, semi-monthly workshops to you. So Brooke asked, on a completely unrelated note, is there any discussion about Encompass rules being updated to recognize January 9th for non-business day disclosures? So we could talk about that. That's a great question. I'll get to that here in just one second. Brooke, thanks for asking that question, because that has to do with, again, for disclosure due dates are, there's 3 calendars in Encompass. So the when your company is required to send disclosures is your company calendar, and you can control any day for that. So I'll bring that up on screen for settings. We'll talk about that, Brooke. Great question. So basically, I think I'm going to go in this order, but effectively, these are the workshops. Just quick for those that are here, do you think these workshops are good topics? Would you rather see a different kind of a workshop or a different topic? What I thought was important was, showing you how to perform proper technology and workflow reviews within your company, whether that's for yourself or somebody else that you've assigned to do them. There's specific ways to do those and how to document and what to do from the list that you get or you generate. And then I want to cover, honestly, best practices for users and personas. I see this in almost every single company we support. So I want to really explain what we're doing so that I can teach you to do it for yourself. Or if you find you are too deep, reach out for help with us. Let's talk about enhanced conditions, how and why to move. The how part is the hardest part, honestly. Especially for retail, there's a lot that goes into dealing with enhanced conditions. I think far more than anybody really appreciated, which is probably why, like, out of this group, is anybody on enhanced conditions yet? Just curious. So we got 7 people besides me, and so far nobody's raised their hand. Reads on them actually, which is great. That's about what I expected. I expected 1 or 2 people to actually be using them. They're a hard nut to crack, and so I'm going to talk about that in a workshop. Then, how and, why and when to leverage Encompass Web in workflows. There's still a lot of confusion around Encompass Web. People are still getting bad. I don't know where some of this information is coming from, but it's just bad and wrong. So I'm going to talk about that in a workshop. What to do with how to break the endless cycle of not having enough time. We can all relate to that, I'm sure. I'm going to talk a lot about overbuilding custom input forms. I can't tell you how many times we walk into a project and these input forms are the product of years of abuse, and it's really, really hard to unwind them, but there's actually a strategy on how to deal with it. I'm talking about running your organization on data. Too many companies are still not even attuned to the concept of data within their workflow. They're still thinking documents. So we're going to talk about that. Learning how to learn how to make leveraging third-party technologies your last resort. So again, this is kind of turning what happened between pretty much 2016 through 2022. I'm flipping it on its head. I think during that time period, there was so much new tech, and Encompass was just so unadvanced or not advanced that we all relied upon all these third-party technology companies, and that's going away. In a very rapid pace. Much more quickly are people moving away from third-party technologies than ever before, and we're going to talk about that. How to truly embrace workflow before technology in your organization. So there's techniques on how to do that, and then how to create and manage a help desk that actually trains people too. The part of what we see is this break, fix, break, fix, break, fix. Nobody gets trained. Nobody. And so we're going to talk about that. While I'm bringing up a settings panel for Brooke's question, is anybody disagreeing, or sorry, not disagreeing, but did I miss something? Like, you're like, Larry, I wish you would go talk about this. If there is something, either put it in the chat here, or if you're watching replay, add it to the comments in the replay. And let me go and bring up an Encompass, and we're going to talk about the settings window. And we're going to talk about Brooke's question. So just to go back through it again, Brooke asks, how do you make January 9th? So if we go into our loan setup and we go into compliance calendars, Brooke, tell me, I want to make sure we're on the right spot. So remember, the company calendar is used for calculating the due dates because TRID says you can't be responsible for counting a day that you're not actually open. That's different from the borrower receiving, which is a Reg Z business day. So just to confirm, Brooke, we're talking about, you want to recognize January 2025. You want to recognize that you're closed that day. Am I correct? And First question. Second question, do you want to talk about it? You want me to unmute you so you can talk about it on audio, on mic or phone call, whatever you want to use? Let me know about that. So while waiting for Brooke, yeah, so naturally, this is where some companies get into some trouble. All right, Brooke, we're going to take you off mute somehow. Oh, Mike. All right, so you should be able to unmute yourself, Brooke. Let me know how that worked out. Oh, wait, now I have to take. Yeah, of course.
Okay.
So what's going on?
We're looking, so there's the chatter, or I think it's actually been, everything's gone through, where June 9th is going to be observed. I believe it's the federal holiday, where most of the government offices and departments are going to be closed for Jimmy Carter, for observing him, for his funeral there. And so we're kind of discussing that within our company of how that is going to look within Encompass, and for the dates, disclosure dates, delivery dates, everything like that. And, if there was anything with Ellie Mae or any chatter there, how that was looking in the pipeline. So it didn't kind of come down. I know Juneteenth was a little bit different there because, that was an actual, federal holiday, and it's continued on. But we just want to make sure we didn't run into any chaotic things like we did last time with Juneteenth.
So I think there's two different things at play. Juneteenth being recognized as a federal holiday is different from January 9th being recognized as a day of remembrance. So, I'm not a compliance resource. I'm always going to tell you to defer to your compliance resources for this. But unless the federal government designates one of these days as a federal holiday, there's nothing to do. Now, so are you going to be open or closed that day for business?
I believe it's still in discussion currently. We were just looking at the different options here.
Okay. So, well, if you're open for business, you'll leave that not pink. If you're closed for business, you'll leave that pink. And again, what we're talking about are due dates versus receive dates. So typically when this conversation comes up, what we're talking about is counting TRID days for earliest closing date. So again, I'm not up to speed on every bit of news, but unless the federal government declares a day to be a federal holiday, it's not going to be covered under Reg Z business days. So therefore, this is just about what you're doing as a company, not about what we're counting for TRID. So Kevin adds, all executive departments and agencies will be closed. That's, again, the U.S. Post Office is not a government agency, so I do not expect the U.S. Post Office to be closed. That's the distinction, right? The distinction is, can the borrower receive the documents in a timely fashion with USPS federal holidays? That's what this is about. So I would, again, I would always tell you to call and confirm, whatever resources you're going to go fetch. But a good example would be if you were actually open Sundays, you would never include Sundays in your company. You would always make sure Sundays were included in your company calendar because your disclosure is going to count that day. Again, not usually not every company does that, but hope I'm answering your question.
Yes, that does.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, Kevin, thanks for that post. For, the order says all executive departments and agencies. I'm assuming it means all government agencies, although it could be read to say all executive agencies. I don't know. I just know it's not a federal holiday. So under that definition, that's a very specific definition. What's this thing? Government sites default National Day of Mourning. Yeah. So this is from the U.S. So just to put it on screen for everybody for replay. So President has issued close all federal offices and excuse all federal employees from duty. So again, this does not include for U.S. Postal Service. So looks like my camera died. There it goes. Great question. Thanks, Brooke.
Thank you.
It's pretty cool when you get, told to go home, I guess. If an employee has a scheduled use or lose annual leave for January is unavailable to reschedule, blah, 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 the leave will be forfeited. Yeah, it's not very nice. It's terrible. Terrible. Anyway, cool. So any other questions? Thank you, Kevin. I agree with Brooke. Thank you, Kevin. Good stuff. Yeah. So listen, today was really just again, I wasn't sure who would show up because it's a light day anyway. For some reason, I see more people taking half days today versus half days before Christmas, which is interesting to me. But I wanted to make sure that when you do, if you haven't already, you don't need to, because all the information is going to be kind of moved over. We've got some brilliant engineers who are moving all of the posts and all of the information from mortgage.community. This is cute. It's going to ask me for my fingerprint. Um, Everything from mortgage.community, everything's going to be moved over into Mastering Encompass in a logical way. So part of what will be in here, besides the fact that the chat actually I think is more intuitive to what's going on, is in the resource center. One of the things that we get to do, which allows for a lot more flexibility, again, is to drop forms, code, rules, all kinds of things natively in here. So if you want to, you can grab them and go put them in your test environment and play around with them, that kind of a thing. And then it also breaks up a quick way to go find information without having to search crazy stuff. So if you want to pay attention to me when I'm walking around describing that stuff, you can do that. Or if you just want to look at workshops, you can do that too. So all this is coming in January. Again, you don't need to do anything. There's about 40 something folks over here already. And if you are used to, or if you didn't know you could do group chats, just as a reminder, within here you can create a group chat. So if you guys want to use this as a joint chat session and build up groups of talking about stuff where you're not posting things, but you still want to stay in touch with each other, that's what this allows for in a robust way as well. So really cool stuff. And then down over here in the messaging, it allows you to do, let me just do one real quick. I'll do to myself. And then down over in here, one of the, for me, it's a cool thing, but to do a voice memo, it lets you go back and forth, as well as create different attachments, as well as highlight different spots if you want to share things. So I'm going to be using this a lot. We also use this for training too, in other private spaces down in here. So that's just a quick. Again, I'll do more information later. Is anyone going to ICE, by the way, to ICE show in March? Oh wait, there was more. What did we put? Something else in here? Who else put? Oh, Kevin. I changed my mind. Oh wait, and Postal Service, a national day. The Postal Service will suspend regular deliveries. Oh boy. Well, if the Postal Service is suspending regular deliveries, there will be limited package delivery to ensure organization does not expect the package deliveries. I don't know, man. That's really tough, because what is a regular delivery? I would say, again, check with your compliance team. If you got a deadline going on, I don't know. If it was my business, I'd say business as usual. But check with your stuff, Kevin. Thanks for finding that information. We'll see what happens, what the folks decide to do. It'll be interesting. Besides the January 9th issue, anybody else have any other questions you want me to go through? Any thoughts? Did you guys want to check out the native mobile app? I got that loaded onto my Encompass. I don't know if you guys have even looked at that with Consumer Connect, if that's on your mind. If anybody wants to talk about that, I'll talk about that. Otherwise, I'll go ahead and end now. If anybody's interested, let me know. Hi, Candace. Hope you're doing well. Happy New Year. All right. Well, I'm going to say that you guys are good to go. You are all taken care of for now on Simple Nexus, but would like to see it. Okay. Who is that, Kevin? Cool. So basically, if you go through Let's go ahead and bring up my Compass environment again. Where'd my Compass environment go? Right. So get over your Consumer Connect portal. And what you're going to do is, first of all, make sure you work with your sales rep at ICE to turn it on, right? That's the first thing. What you've got to do is, once you get that turned on, when you go into Website Builder, if it's not a widget site, so remember, if you did this, if you listened to me and you created a widget site, you're not going to have the little nugget down there. If you go over to an ICE site, you have this little nugget. And by setting site as native mobile app site, what that allows you to do is when you go to build or when you go into Website Builder, and by the way, this is why you want to have, I'm not sharing my screen, damn it. Let me try that again. Thanks, Kevin. So let me go back to what I didn't show you. So if you go to your Consumer Connect site and you go into Website Builder, this is it's an ICE mortgage website because it says, something.mymortgage-online.com. And you'll see this little spot down here where it says set site as native mobile app site. Okay, you'll notice that that's not there. For if you do add a widget, like here's a widget site example, you'll see that little nugget's right in that there, right? That slider's missing. So if you go to an ICE Mortgage Technology website that you're hosting, you'll also notice that if it's enabled, you'll see a little mobile here versus web. And if you have this enabled, you can come over into the Website Builder. You'll see over in the top right, you have this little slider. And so this is if you're using a tablet. This is if you're using a phone. And this is if you're using both. Now, it's a little bit of trickery because if we go over into Pages and we go down into mobile pages, right now the website only has 4 pages. This is why you need the loan application customization tool enabled, which I'm still waiting for mine. Pardon me. So when I have that, you can come in here, you can build more mobile pages. Right now, you see that little slider, it goes away. But once you do edit, you can edit your things in right here. And so if you go to your Play Store and you want to download it, right? You'll pick, I'm going to figure this out. Oh, it's this camera, my bad. See that little house right above the Hainesport 51 degrees? That little house icon there to the left of Blue Sky. That is the generic app. And when you open that generic app, you'll be brought to a spot that says basically, add a lender. And when you go to add a lender, this will be blank for you, right? I've got Mortgage Workflow Partners on there now. But if I click publish, you're going to get a QR code. So what you can do is either enter your site ID, which for me is that 271 number, or you can click scan QR code. It'll come up with a picture, and you scan that QR code on the screen. That will automatically tie your borrower to the site, right? And so what's on my phone is exactly what you see here on screen. Now I don't have any calculators here, right? So I have to come over here and as for image, sorry. So if I wanted to pick an image, I could select the edit icon and go ahead and edit that. I was messing around with calculators before. So there's a calculator down there. I don't know if you can see it, but there's 2 little, triangle things there. So if I go there and I want to add a break even in here, if it was supported, right? Housing payment save, it's not supported. So this is where, again, we need the loan application customization tool for this thing to be done. The other thing I'll say is if you go over into About Us, this is editable where this isn't. This part right here, just so you know, is coming from the pages and it's coming from the home page here. And it's coming from down here in this footer area. So if you edit it here, then it will edit over there. So I think there's a little bit of, personally speaking, I think some of this needs a little buffing. but truthfully, I'm not going to use, and like, I'm not holding this against ICE. That's the reason why they developed the loan application customization tool. That's the one I would use. But regardless, hit publish. No matter what you do, hit publish. It'll give you a fresh QR code and a fresh link, and you can add it to your mobile app there. So imagine you've got different workflows, right? You can add in, if you go into, that's the website builder. If you go in here, this is where you can have loan app workflows for there. I only have one, but you can have more than one, depending on what you have. You can also go and build multiple websites, and now you don't have to have different domains. This is the part that I was so damn excited about, because I'm imagining I can put that QR code in a builder's office, a realtor's office, on a bus stop, I don't know, anywhere. And all I have to do is just keep driving people to the same app, right? That little house icon, and that will download one app, and I can have unlimited, I can have a crap ton of different experiences for all my different places. For the CUSOs that are managing all these different credit unions, solved. One app, 30 credit unions, different experiences, different logos, different pages, the whole thing. I think it's beautiful. I think it's exciting. And I, it's one of the things you can't do with SimpleNexus. You just can't. So how's that, Kevin? Did that feel good? Any questions you have on that? Do you want me to take you off mute or anything like that? All good? Okay. Yeah, check it out. Listen, in 2025, I've got a bunch of targets that I'm going after for more business. I've got a bunch of targets that I'm going after for companies to unwind unnecessary third-party tech because they're not using it, or they're not using it properly, or it's not doing what they think it's doing. But ultimately, I'm just showing people, you're paying for this stuff. Like, here's how you use it. Here's how you do better. So if I can help you, let me know. You guys have an awesome Happy New Year. Thanks for coming on at 4 o'clock on a New Year's Eve. Appreciate it. We'll see you next time. We'll see you next year, and stay tuned for more details. Okay. Bye for now.